Coming to you live from the Tino Studios in Minooka, Illinois. I'm your host, Bucky Shanks, and this is Tino Tonight. Welcome everybody to the Week 7 edition of Tino Tonight. This is getting ridiculous. The number one team in the country has yet again been knocked off. I think that speaks to the parity in this league, but at some point, the number one ranked team in the country has to win, right? We'll try it again in Week 8 as a new number one team will be revealed. The top 25 went 16-9 in Week 7. As always, we start with the squeak of the week. Week 7 brought us number 12 Michigan and Rutgers. The Wolverines went on the road to the East Coast, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and the trip didn't go as planned. Rutgers took down Michigan by a score of 928.05 to 909.05. The 19-point game is the 13th closest game in Tino history. As we say around these parts, it's a short history, but, say it with me, history nonetheless. And that brings us to the beatdown of the week. Number 2 Oklahoma goes on the road to Lawrence, Kansas to take on the number 9 Jayhawks in what was supposed to be a collision among two of the best in the Big 12. One team showed up, and that team was Oklahoma. The Sooners won by a score of 1108.25 to 804.95. The 303.30 point win is the 8th biggest beatdown in Tino history. The site will show 10th, but again, we are not acknowledging any tanking-related games. And that brings us to Stock Watch. This week's movers and shakers include last week's number 2 Oklahoma, last week's number 3 Tennessee, last week's number 23 Iowa State, and Rutgers. After back-to-back weeks with just one team hitting the mark, this week we get 4. Rutgers took down number 24 Penn State and number 12 Michigan and have been on a steady march for the top 25. They get Michigan State next week as both teams remain in the hunt for the Big Ten title game. Iowa State beat number 22 Baylor and number 20 Texas Tech and have been also trending way up. They get Texas next, and the situation is the same here as the Cyclones and Longhorns are right there in the hunt for the Big 12 title game. Tennessee beat number 25 Auburn and number 13 LSU to earn their spot on this week's Stock Watch. Next up for them is Mississippi State, and the Volunteers should be a heavy favorite in that one. Oklahoma beat number 12 Texas Tech and number 9 Kansas, and will get West Virginia next. The Mountaineers are in must-win territory. And that brings us to the top 25. Checking in at 25 is Texas, 4-3. The Longhorns beat West Virginia to rejoin the top 25 this week. Number 24 Cal, 4-3. Coming off a loss to number 14 Washington State, the Golden Bears fall from 17 to 24. Number 23 Florida State, 4-3. Suffering a loss to number 19 Virginia Tech, the Seminoles drop from 16 to 23. Number 22 Wisconsin at 4-3. After beating Penn State, the Badgers climb from 25 up to 22. Number 21 Michigan, 4-3. After appearing on the wrong end of Squeak of the Week in a loss to unranked Rutgers, the Wolverines dropped from 12 to 21. Number 20 Michigan State, 4-3. The Spartans beat Purdue and climbed from 24 to 21. LSU, 4-3. After losing to number 3 ranked Tennessee, the Tigers fell 6 spots from 13 to 19. Number 18 NC State, 5-2. The Wolfpack beat Wake Forest and climbed 4 spots from 22 to 18. Number 17 Iowa State, 4-3. The Cyclones beat number 20 Texas Tech as we saw earlier on Stock Watch. They climbed from 23 to 17 and are knocking on the door of a playoff berth. Number 16 Georgia Tech, 4-3. After beating the Hurricanes, the Yellow Jackets gained 5 spots and went from 21 to 16. Number 15 Syracuse, 5-2. The Orange beat North Carolina and moved from 18 to 15. Number 14 Nebraska, 5-2. After losing to unranked Maryland, the Cornhuskers slid from 6 to 14. Number 13 Kansas, 5-2. We witnessed earlier on Beatdown of the Week that the Jayhawks were on the wrong end of an absolute ass-kicking by Oklahoma. DJ Khaled's patience is starting to wear thin. He still said, "We the best," but he wasn't very convincing. Number 12, UCLA, 4-3. After losing to number 4 Oregon, the Bruins fell from 4 to 8. The committee respected the loss to a high-ranked team and the amount of points the Bruins have been putting up. However, the losses are starting to pile up and the Bruins will need to turn it around and fast. Number 11, Virginia Tech 5-2. After beating number 16 ranked Florida State, the Hokies were allowed back in the playoff picture and jumped from 19 to 11. Number 10, Vanderbilt 5-2. After beating the tanking Gamecocks, Vandy jumped from 15 to 10. Number 9, Washington State 5-2. After beating number 17 Cal, the Cougars jumped into the top 10, leaping from 14 to 9. Number 8, Washington 5-2. The Huskies got by Arizona and went from 11 to 8. Number 7, Clemson 5-2. The Tigers beat Notre Dame and climbed 3 spots from 10 to 7. Number 6, Arkansas 5-2. The most recent number 1 to get picked off. They fell to Auburn and dropped from 1 to 6. And that brings us to the top 5. Number 5, Alabama 5-2. After beating Georgia, the Crimson Tide joined the top 5 after being ranked 7th last week. Number 4, Ohio State 6-1. The Buckeyes beat Iowa and climbed from 5 to 4. Number 3, Oregon 6-1. The Oregon Ducks beat number 8 UCLA and gained 1 spot from 4 to 3. Number 2, Tennessee 6-1. After beating number 13 ranked LSU, the Volunteers jumped from 3 to 2. And the number 1 team in the land, number 1 Oklahoma 6-1. They received all 10 first place votes after the beatdown they put on number 9 Kansas. The Sooners continue to just put up points at a ridiculous pace. It's basically a letdown now if this team doesn't score over 1,000 points each week. And now we take a look at how the bowls and playoffs would set up if the season ended today. We start with the minor bowls. The TaxSlayer.com Gator Bowl would be the Arizona State Sun Devils and the Iowa Hawkeyes, as this represents the 33rd and 34th ranked teams. The Outback Bowl would be the Florida Gators and the Oregon State Beavers in the 31 vs. 32 game. The VRBO Citrus Bowl would be the Baylor Bears and the Rutgers Scarlet Knights in the 29 vs. 30 game. The Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl would be the Auburn Tigers and the Texas Tech Red Raiders in the 27 vs. 28 game. The Goodyear Cotton Bowl would be the TCU Horned Frogs and the Texas Longhorns in the 25 vs. 26 game. The Capital One Orange Bowl would be the California Golden Bears and the Florida State Seminoles in the 23 vs. 24 game. The PlayStation Fiesta Bowl would be the Wisconsin Badgers and the Michigan Wolverines in the 21 vs. 22 game. The Rose Bowl game presented by Northwestern Mutual would be the Michigan State Spartans and the LSU Tigers in the 19 vs. 20 game. The All-State Sugar Bowl would be the NC State Wolfpack and the Iowa State Cyclones in the 17 vs. 18 game. And now the playoff picture in the road to the national championship. If the playoffs started today, we would have number 1 Oklahoma taking on number 16 Georgia Tech. The winner would head to the Elite 8 and face the winner of number 8 Washington and number 9 Washington State. Number 5 Alabama would face number 12 UCLA, with the winner heading to the Elite 8 to face the winner of number 4 Ohio State and number 13 Kansas. And in the other half of the championship bracket, we have number 6 Arkansas taking on number 11 Virginia Tech. The winner would head to the Elite 8 to face the winner of number 3 Oregon and number 14 Nebraska. Number 7 Clemson would face number 10 Vanderbilt. Winner would head to the Elite 8 to face the winner of number 2 Tennessee and number 15 Syracuse. And that'll do it for Week 7 in TINOncaa. We'll be back next week with the action from Week 8 as we get closer to the conference title games and the postseason picture becomes a little bit clearer. Will Oklahoma get a win and get rid of this dark cloud that's following the number 1 seed? We'll find out this weekend. For everyone here at Tino Studios, I'm Bucky Shanks, and we'll see you next week. Good night, everybody!